Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Van Dyck. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very exciting webinar talking about the Smart Safe revolution. Uh, I just want to say a bit on housekeeping. John Tucker and we anticipate that this discussion that we're going to have will last up to 45 minutes. And then we welcome any questions that folks may have, and we'll spend some time after our discussion addressing those questions. So I want to talk a little bit about why we're having this discussion at all today, and what the problem is, the challenge is regarding both cannabis businesses as well as banks and credit unions, and that is the fact that cannabis-related businesses still operate in a heavily cash-intensive environment. And John and I are going to talk at length about the various challenges that type of environment poses, both financial and non-financial. And then we're going to get into a little bit of a hypothetical that John thought up as me being a cannabis-related business owner. And just so that folks know, it's purely hypothetical. I'm not licensed. I don't have a license to operate cannabis businesses, so that'll be a totally hypothetical scenario. And then we're going to talk about the all of the advantages of using a smart safe, not just for cannabis related businesses, but also from a financial institution perspective. And I can speak a little bit to that given my background. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about not only the non-financial advantages, but also the financial advantages. What kind of return on investment your business or your financial institution can show by using smart safes. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. And please don't be shy about your questions. This space is very gray. And as far as I used to be, in the compliance area, and there's no such thing as a dumb question in with this type of topic. It's all very much a kind of a moving space, moving target. So please don't be shy with questions. So I think, Raphael, maybe we can move on to the next one. Yeah, John, I'm going to let you talk
Okay.
about your background, and I also want you to say a few words about national secure transport. I've gotten to know you very well. I've gotten to know
Yeah.
Joe Wenzel very well. Both great guys. We see each other a lot at the conferences that we attend. But John, why don't you say a few words about yourself and NST?
Yeah, hey Chris, I appreciate that introduction. Great introduction, Chris. Yeah, I'm John Tucker. I'm Director of Enterprise and Partnerships with National Secure Transport. So National Secure Transport, we've actually been in the market of the U.S. armored car space since about 2018, give or take. We got multiple different brands, all right? And we've built our company around servicing dispensaries, and now we're rapidly expanding outside of just the cannabis space. But we're creating a revolution, Chris, in the U.S. armored car market, where for the first time ever, a retailer, dispensary, or non-cannabis can consolidate all their payment needs under one roof. And in this presentation, we're going to talk about the Smart Safe, which is going deeper into the cash management side of things, and what happens in your retail environment, or what's happening in your retail environment if you don't have a Smart Safe installed. Because a lot of times a retailer will say, "Oh, John, $10,000, 15K, 20 great. That's too high. That's too expensive right now." But when we actually drill down into the numbers in terms of labor and lost yield, you're already paying for it. So it's just to really give you those insights. And as we get to 2026, you can start to make some potential additional planning around putting more guardrails around cash. But in terms of myself, I've been around for a long time, Chris, so I have no hair. Is all this stress from the fintech world, but
You and me both, John.
Right, well, there we go. We're almost twins. But almost 20 years in payments and banking and fintech, and 8 of those years comes from being in the armored car space. I was at the Brinks Company before I've come over here with Ari Raptis, our CEO and founder, with National Secure Transport. I've been here now almost 3 years, and we have a total Team Grit. We call it Team Grit of regional account managers across the country. In terms of, you see my numbers there, over 100 billion plus in managed payment in cash process in terms of my time with Brinks and NST. And I've also been in the accounts receivable automation space. I used to run my own business for 10 years with First Capital Loans back in the day, and I did credit card processing and helped out businesses with business lending. And I got a lot of degrees there too, Chris. Not as many as you though, but I got an MBA and 3 bachelor's degrees. I'm kind of a nerd here, a quiet nerd, but excited to speak with everybody today. Thanks for joining in. We got a great session for you guys.
John, I think you're beating me up on the degrees. You've definitely got more degrees than I have. I've got a BA and a JD, as you said. Yeah, just a few words about me. I am a former financial regulator. I was the attorney with the Maine Bureau of Financial Institutions for 8 years. And during my final year there with the Maine Bureau, it was that year that the FinCEN guidance on cannabis banking was issued. And so I spent much of my last year there advising some of our regulated entities who were curious about getting into cannabis banking, exactly what the FinCEN guidance meant. What it meant back then and what it means now are two very, very different things. It's a pretty thin document, open to a lot of interpretation. But that's a topic for another conversation altogether. And then in 2014, I joined a credit union. I became I wore a lot of hats. FI land folks who are on this call in financial institution land know that, when you're working for a bank or credit union, you tend to wear more than one hat. I was the general counsel. I was the BSA officer. I was the chief risk officer. And I also assisted with vendor customer complaints, worked on the vendor management side. So, and basically, I was on call for any question folks had, frontline or back office. I was there kind of as a resource for the entire financial institution. And while I was at Seaport Credit Union in Maine, we developed one of the nation's first cannabis banking programs. And hindsight is always 2020, John. Our BSA department back then was a department of half a person, which was me from the waist up. Uh, and I was basically responsible for kind of the onboarding of all of our cannabis related businesses. I might refer to those going forward as CRBs, cannabis related businesses, just as kind of a shorthand. And then, next morning I'd be in at 7:30 typing up the narratives for the SAR reports, making sure all the onboarding was in place. And and this was, through no credit of my own, we were the only shop in town. Our cannabis related banking program grew exponentially.
That's awesome.
Our board kind of went back and forth on the lending piece. We never quite got there, so we were just on the depository side, and but just on the depository side and with the fees alone, that program represented a very significant jolt to our return on assets. So we were very pleased with that program. We been through several examination cycles, and through each cycle, the expectations changed a little bit with different examiners. Federal banking examiners and state banking examiners tended to have different views on, exactly what the requirements entailed regarding cannabis banking. But we slogged through it, and we were very, very committed to serving the cannabis related businesses. We were a community financial institution, and we felt very, very strongly that our cannabis businesses were just as much a part of our community as anyone else.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then for the last 2 years, I've been with Cogent Law Group. Uh, I met one of our partners, Josh Radbod, who runs the PBC conference.
I know Josh.
John, you and I have been to the PBC conference several times. That's where you and I think, first met, if I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
right.
And he and I got to, Josh and I got to talking, and it turned out Cogent was looking for an attorney who had some expertise in this area. And so, anyway, I've been advising banks and credit unions across the country, and I do one of four things with for financial institutions. I advise them if they're looking to get started with a cannabis banking program. I can kind of fast track them, talk first about the risks and how to mitigate those risks, and then help them with policies and procedures. And I also work with financial institutions already in the cannabis space, but who are looking to get into it on the lending side,
Okay.
because there are additional risks associated with the lending side, and there are special covenants that should be in place with your loan agreements if you're looking to offer commercial lending to CRBs. And thirdly, I've worked with financial institutions who've gotten into a little bit of trouble with their regulators and need some kind of remediation.
Yeah.
And so I do that. And then the fourth thing I do just recently, I've been working with some financial institutions that have extremely well developed programs, but they've gotten bogged down with some inefficiencies and are
Mhm.
looking for somebody to consult with them so that their program can become more efficient, more cost effective, but at the same time remaining compliant in the eyes of of their examiners. I also work as and this is a kind of a fifth thing that I've just started to do, is I'm on call. If somebody has somebody on a BSA team at a FI financial institution has a specific question, uh, and I'm kind of on call. If they want somebody with a quick response in terms of how to file a SAR, or how their compliance should work on a specific issue, I can help with very specific questions. So anyway, that's
Awesome.
that's more than enough about me.
Hey, but Chris, that's some good stuff there. I mean, we talk about grit at NST, right? And you've just talked about your grit leading up to this point, and the cannabis space. I mean, it's just is something, right? All the hoops you got to jump through as a dispensary just to get open, and even on the banking side, all the compliance stuff that you got to do. So it's thanks for your service and contributions to this crazy industry, right?
That is a great point, John.
Yeah.
Needs to be echoed, and that is the fact that cannabis related businesses and banks
Yeah.
are very, very similar. They're both in probably they probably are in the two most highly regulated industries in
Mhm.
the US. And a partner of mine and we wrote an article and did a presentation called "We're in This Together."
Mhm.
So and that's one reason why CRBs make such good banking
Yeah.
customers, because they understand regulation. They
Mhm.
understand that, like them, banks have to go through these hoops so that they
Right.
can
Right.
serve them. So anyway, John, I'm
Appetite.
gonna I'm gonna let you take the lead here and
Okay.
talk a little bit about the this hypothetical scenario that we've got.
Yeah.
So why don't you take
Yeah.
it from here?
I got you, Chris. Yeah. So, guys, it's only a hypothetical, right? I don't want to get Chris in trouble with the regulators. There's no cannabis dispensary yet. But let's talk about the problem here. And so let's go to the next slide, right? So, what we do at NST, we do these things called time and motion studies. So you're a retailer, you're a dispensary or a liquor store, whatever retailer you are. But I got Van Dyck Cannabis as a hypothetical. So this dispensary is open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this dispensary, Chris has four people managing cash. He pays them $25 an hour. And these are very conservative numbers. Like usually in the cannabis space, and Chris can probably or agree with this, you're probably getting paid more per hour.
I was going to say, I think these
Yeah,
numbers are very conservative, and I think, yeah, in the cannabis space, like when, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's handling cash, that
yeah,
element of trust, you've got to you've got to pay them a little bit more.
yeah,
And I will also say, at least on the banking side, dual control, whenever cash was in front of a person, dual
mhm,
control was mandatory. So you
okay,
always had two people away from serving customers having to physically count cash.
yeah.
Very, very labor intensive. But I interrupted. You keep going, John.
No, wait, Chris, I want that dialogue, right? Because what I don't want anybody falling asleep on us because we got a lot of insights we want to share with you guys, right? So as you guys see on the screen, 4 staff members, right? So 90 minutes per staff member is being spent on a daily basis to count cash, to bag it, to run to the bank if they're still doing that, to do cash reports, reconciliation, balancing, auditing, and again, very conservative numbers.
I was
But
going to say, I
yeah,
think the 90 minutes is very conservative too,
very conservative.
especially if you're a
Two
successful
hours.
business.
Yeah, it can be up
Absolutely.
to 2 hours, two and a half hours, depending upon how busy that store is, right? And with dispensaries, you can't accept electronic payments, or at least you shouldn't be. So you got a lot more heavy cash volumes than a regular or a traditional retailer. But just looking at the labor costs, $150 a day in labor is being spent to manage cash.
And
That's
again, I would say
yeah,
more than that, but let's
yeah.
stick to your conservative figures for now. But I would say more than that.
Yeah, very conservative here, and per month that's 4,500 a month, and then per year you're talking about almost 55,000 a year. That's over 164,000 over 3 years. That when we talk about a concept of, well, John, I don't want to put a smart safe in there. I already got 4 people that's already employed, and this is what their job is. Think about this for a minute. What could those 4 people be doing with this very conservative 90 minutes per day? Especially as a dispensary. Yeah, as you know, Chris, can I say this? I don't smoke marijuana. I'm kind of getting introduced into it a little bit. I'm a drinker socially, but in terms of the market, customers like me are the growth of your dispensary. And what if you could redirect your bud tenders or staff members to educating me, doing more customer service, more marketing, to make me a repeat customer versus having to get me in and out of the store because they got to go and do some cash reports. So it's just, let's go to the next slide, because we even got more stuff that we can that's even addition to this. Let's go to the next slide right here.
And John, I'll just say, I just want to say a few words to echo what you just said on the
Okay.
financial institution side.
Okay.
And that is, we had, again, in my previous existence at an FI, this cash intensive these cash intensive deposits that were being made on a daily basis was a huge disruptor for our front line. And we had our non-CRB customers waiting in line while tellers were counting cash. We had to divert some of our tellers to go behind the line to do all of this cash counting, which meant that our teller line was thin, and because of that, our lines grew longer, and our customers, frankly, weren't as happy with all that. So anyway, just wanted to echo what you were just saying from a customer service perspective, that non-financial element.
Yeah, yeah, it's something, and this affects the entire cash ecosystem, not just the retailer, but the FI. If your FI, if they close at 5 o'clock and you're dropping off 100K at 4:30, that teller has to count all that cash, and this is when you're going to get an increase in mistakes, and it also puts a big target on that bank branch. So a lot of FIs are pushing their cash intensive retail clients to actually go to a smart safe in this regard. But
Yeah. And sorry to keep interrupting, but
yeah.
exactly the same point on the FI side. We had to enhance our security at each of our branches before we introduced our Smart Safe program. because of our worry about being robbed. There are bad actors out there. People came to know that our credit union was banking cannabis, and the cannabis was cash intensive, and so that kind of you know put us up the scale in terms of being a target for
Right.
robbery. So there's the employee safety issue, the branch safety issue. Anyway, I keep interrupting you, John. I'm going to let you take the wheel again.
But see, you're the CEO of Van Dyck Cannabis, so we got to get your insights, Chris. And you make some great points because again, when we're talking about this, it's not just a retailer, it is the FI. And you make some great points. But you look at this slide right here, these are additional risk that as a retailer, if you have no smart safe inside and you're just doing cash pickup only, where you're putting the cash in the bag and you're waiting for an armor carrier to come and pick it up, or maybe you're just doing daily bank runs. But you also got this situation of internal theft. I mean, you got a situation right now, Chris. You got AI coming up. You got the tariffs. You got cost of living. It's kind of hard out here for a lot of people, and internal theft is on the rise.
Yeah,
So
the temptation is there,
yeah,
and
so
yeah, it's a problem that often is, and a lot of it's even happens when family members are employed too. Employees,
exactly.
it happens more often than people think. Anyway, the smart safes again mitigate that risk.
Yeah, you got more checks and balances and more guardrails around the cash. And you can even now go to your insurance broker and say, hey, listen, I've put a smart safe in there now. You probably can reduce your premiums down by up to 15%, is what we usually see. But then what about this? Loss yield and retail float. So a lot of retailers will say, hey, listen, I'll just start out with basic cash pickup only, to try to save money, right? But then think about it. If the armor carrier is coming once a week, that cash is sitting in the back of the store idle and you're not earning any interest on it. And that could be tens of thousands of dollars every year per location just for the cash sitting in the back of the store. And then we talked about the higher labor value, where you can redirect that labor. Some retailers might even have to hire an additional person because they have so much cash. And Chris, we haven't talked about this. We got to talk about the reputation hit. Just one incident of your retail store, that staff member being injured or robbed or hurt on the way to dropping cash off to the bank, that can be a big reputation hit, and it could lead to a lot more collateral damage than just lost dollars, right? So it's a
Yeah,
lot going on.
absolutely. And I want to go back to your point about the lost yield. These when we did introduce smart safes, that was a game changer for our financial institution. There are a lot of there, even though the percentage of banks and credit unions that are offering cannabis banking is still relatively small. The percentage is growing, and we are in a environment where there is competition. And because of that, competition is a great thing, but competition also puts downward pressure on fee and interest income for financial institutions. But if a financial institution is able to offer smart safes, that's a game changer. That really creates a very sticky relationship between the FI and the CRB. And it also it's the reason it's such a game changer is because the bank, by offering these smart safes, obviously there's going to be a charge for this, but it offers a provisional credit and
Right.
also offers them more instant access to the cash, to their hard-earned revenues that get deposited much more readily uh, into their accounts. So a big differentiator there for banks and credit unions.
Yeah, you got to stand out in the market. You got the rise of the fintech apps, and you're trying to expand market share. So, what better way to do that than to partner with an armor carrier, turn on smart safes, give your retailers daily provisional credit, let them put that money back into the business instead of waiting for the armor carrier to pick it up and process it, and then they put it into their account, right? So it's creating a revolution, I call it, in the market. Hey, let's go to the next slide. The next slide, we're going to go to these other slides a little bit quicker. We're going to talk about the smart safe advantage, right? So we talked about the problem. Okay, when you're a retailer and you don't have a smart safe there. So now let's talk about what happens when you put a smart safe in the location. And let's go to the next slide here. We're going to talk about the functionalities here and how does it function. So basically each staff member has their own PIN code. And they're going to feed in the notes in the smart safe either through a single note validator or a bulk note validator. And it can be multiple validators on there. And then every time she feeds her cash in, she's going to get a receipt printout. So she has checks and balances. So if there's something going on at that retail location, she can say, hey, listen, I made my drop. Here's the audit trail. It wasn't me, man. Maybe it was somebody else, but it wasn't me if something funny went on.
So
And
that's something we haven't
yeah,
talked about. This protects the employees.
it protects the employee as well.
Yeah.
There you go. You know, it gives them more protection if there's a lot of that internal theft going on that we talked about earlier. And then we talked about the daily provisional credit. The real-time reports is another thing, Chris, that the retailer gets, where they can log in real time and see how much cash has been put into that smart safe. When the carrier comes and clears out the safe, they'll get an alert on that. But then here's another thing. They can print off all of their balancing and reconciliation reports. No longer do they have to sit there and compile that at the end of the business day. It's going to be all automated for them now from the portal.
So there's another huge time saver for your CFO.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just talking about, frontline staff here. We're talking about time savings, all the way up the line.
Right. There you go. And more visibility and it's a much more efficient system. It's modernizing your cash management, right? It's kind of getting with the current times. And then the step three, the armor carrier that you partner with on a monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, or even more basis, they'll come and clear out the safe. Most FIs want the safe cleared out at least every other week so they can you get that money out of the physical safe and get it processed. And another thing too, most armor carriers are going to right size fit the smart safe. So they're going to look at your cash volumes and run it through an analysis and say, based on a once a week frequency, what's the right size fit that we can put in there? And then if we can go to the next slide shows the different types of smart safe sizes that you have available to you. So we talked about the single note validator, the bulk note validator. You can go anywhere from 2,200 notes up to 8,800 note, Chris, in terms of the smart safe capacity sizes. The storage, what you're seeing on the screen here uses cassette technology, which means once the cash goes in, the cash sits into the cassettes. And then the armor carrier, when they come and they service the safe on a weekly basis, let's say, they're going to have their PIN code. They're going to log in there. They're going to empty out the cassettes, put the cash into a bag, and put the empty cassettes back in. But there's other technologies out there that use bag technology. We call it like kind of like a Santa bag kind of thing, right? And you put the money in there, and it free falls into a bag. So you got different options out there in terms of different type of smart safe models. And based upon the capacity, it could be anywhere from 5K to 20K to buy it up front.
So just so that I'm clear on this, in order to get into a smart safe, to have access to a smart safe, you have a code that's specific to you. Is that correct? So
From the armor carrier perspective,
yes.
yeah, there you go. So basically, maybe I shouldn't call it a code. It's actually a key on most of the
Okay.
safes. So the retailer will have a key, and then the carrier has a key. And when that carrier comes, they kind of put their keys together, and then it unlocks the internal access to the cassettes for the smart safe.
Okay.
Just
So how does it work on the employee side then?
yeah.
Is an employee issued an employee specific key?
So the employee, we will give a copy of the key to like a store manager, but the actual the staff members that are putting the cash in, they don't have a key to get to the internal cassettes. Okay, and even the store manager's key is very limited. The individual staff members will have a PIN code, and on the smart safe here, there's a keypad. They'll put their PIN code in there, and it's going to light up to allow them to feed the cash in. So they can only put cash in; they can't disperse cash out for a smart safe deposit only. But if we go to the next slide, okay, I keep talking about the next slide. The next slide, actually, we talk about the recycler, okay? And Chris, Van Dyck Cannabis doesn't need a recycler, but there are some dispensaries out there that need a recycler based upon their cash volumes. And what a recycler does that's different than a smart safe. A recycler, you can deposit notes in and coin, and you can also disperse out notes and coin for total back office automation. So if you got a really large dispensary, maybe you're a grocery store, or maybe you're an amusement park, that's what a recycler is going to come into play. And as you see, the capacity sizes are a lot larger. They got the coin capacity in there, but the pricing is more expensive because we're dealing with more cash and currency management and disbursement of that as well. So total back office automation.
Yeah, and let me just say a few good words about the recycler from the FI perspective too, because this was again something that we introduced at my financial institution belatedly. Again, hindsight is always 2020, but it was a game changer. We had the recycler in a kind of a back office protected area, and the amount of time that the recycler saved for the cash counting was enormous. And also, again, getting back to the safety and soundness issue, the employee protection issue, all of that thing, like the smart safes, it had all the advantages that a smart safe offers as well.
Yeah, you got the best of both worlds, the best of the deposit side and the disbursement side, right? And it's just awesome. And similar to the smart safe, you get that daily provisional credit and the full-time reporting, the real-time reporting. You get the whole features and benefits with the recycler if you do the smart safe too. So now how about this? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the next slide here is going to basically talk about the additional benefits here, kind of bringing it all home here. Okay, so Van Dyck Cannabis has now moved forward and he has put a smart safe in there. Chris has done it, all right? And hopefully it's not because I sold him, but because he saw the value, all right? Or maybe that's both things. But Chris is now getting faster access to cash without his staff members having to leave the store. So he's able to put that cash back into the business for more marketing, payroll, other type of growth. He can go to his insurance broker and say, hey, I got a smart safe in here. I got more checks and balances, more guardrails, try to get his insurance premiums down. Again, we talked about redirecting that labor. The reports are automated. And then, as we talked about, Chris, a much more safer environment for your actual employees now, because God forbid, if a robbery takes place, here's another thing. Again, as we talked about, they cannot open the door where the cash actually sits. And the staff members can say, we have no access to that. And, it just makes it a little bit more safer and gives the employees a bit more peace of mind.
It's a
Uh,
very, foolproof system there. I love this.
so and let's go to the next slide here. And the next slide or the next section, we're going to talk about the ROI. So we're going to put it all together and then we're going to go to some questions. We want to hear some questions from the audience here. So let's go to the next slide here when we review the ROI. So with a smart safe or a recycler, okay, well, let's see. I think we skipped a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the number 14, I think, page 14, I think. Okay, there we go, right here. So with a smart safe, right, or recycler, you got the technology side, but then we talked about the armor carrier. You also need an armor carrier partnership. For the armor carrier to come out there and clear out the smart safe, we call that cash in transit, CIT. And then they also, on behalf of the financial institution, they're going to have a partnership with your FI to recount that cash and process that cash and take the physical cash to the Federal Reserve on their behalf. Okay. And so when we break it down on this slide here, I have the basic costs for Van Dyck Cannabis, who doesn't need any change orders. That's not that common, but Chris has it all together there. This is what the cost would be from CIT and CVS side. And then let's go to the next slide. And we'll send everybody a copy of this PowerPoint so you can dig deep into these numbers. But this slide also now continues to cost, where we list out the cost of the technology. I talked about earlier, we're going to right size fit the smart safe based upon a once a week frequency. So Chris just needs a 4,400 note capacity safe. He wants a 2 bulk note feeder. and he's going to buy it up front. He's not going to lease it. Or lease or finance to own it. We also recommend that because it's going to be cheaper. It's going to save you on the financing costs. So you see all those costs broken down right there, and you see the costs to acquire the smart safe for 1 year, for the first year, and then year 2 and year 3. And then let's go to the next slide. And the next slide is going to bring this home in terms of the ROI. And we talked about the labor cost earlier, okay, for Van Dyck Cannabis, for $54,000, almost $55,000 a year in just labor. That's not counting the lost yield and the other nuances. 164,000 over 3 years just in labor. And so you look at the breakdown of the ROI. Okay, so for the first year, because you're acquiring the smart safe, and then you have to also add in the cost of service at the CIT CVS. You see those numbers right there. So upfront purchase analysis, ROI for the first year, ROI is $35,000, and that's $129,000 over 3 years. So again, I don't want to get all salesy on anybody here, but when a retailer says, if you're an FI, your client says, or you're a retailer attending here, and you say, well, we can't afford a smart safe right now. It's just too expensive. That the 10,000 to 15,000 is too expensive. You're already paying for it. You're spending the costs in terms of lost labor and lost interest yield, amongst other nuances. And if you modernize your retail environment, you can now, again, as we've already talked about, get faster access to cash, automated reports, free up that labor, and especially if you're in a dispensary, free up that labor to get the customers back in the door and not have to spend time counting cash. So
John, this is very convincing, at least for me it is. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is ROI. And again, looking at this from an FI perspective, that's the bottom line. That's why financial institutions get into cannabis banking. They're not being altruistic. There are a lot of good public policy reasons for getting cannabis businesses banked, but at the end of the day, banks do this because of return on investment, and it's the same for cannabis businesses. It's all about return on investment. And these figures to me look very, very convincing.
yeah, yeah. So let's go to the next slide. It's time for Q&A, Chris. So let's see who has some questions for us. And then also I want to show this. We got a special webinar code from the NST side. So NST webinar, if you use this code between now and the end of the year, you'll get 15% off, but it expires before the end of the year. So you want to click that QR code, request more information or a smart safe proposal, and then one of our regional account managers, they'll hop on a call with you, learn more about your business, and make sure you mention that code, and they'll give you a special discount for the end of the year.
Yeah, and let me just say too, that number below my name, that's my cell number. I kind of make it it's a point of pride that I like to be extremely accessible to folks. And I don't know how many FIs we have on the call versus cannabis related businesses, but Cogent Law we have a cannabis, I'm not a cannabis attorney, but we have several cannabis attorneys who are top flight cannabis attorneys. And Cogent is it's a different firm. Our managing partner, he's kind of cut away all the chaff from the wheat. Our billing rates tend to be significantly reduced from what firms are normally set at paying. And he's tried to make a firm that's very, very client centric. So if there are any CRBs who are looking for legal advice, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email, and I can refer them to one of our cannabis attorneys. And likewise, if there's an FI out there who needs any assistance with their cannabis banking program, please feel free to reach out.
Oh. All right. So it looks like we have some questions here. Chris, you want to read off the questions, Chris, and then maybe I answer them?
Yeah. So how does provisional cash work? So what happens is, the bank, what happens is once that money is, and this is the scenario where you've got a smart safe that's electronically hooked up to the financial institution's core provider. And so what happens is when that money is deposited into the account, into the smart safe, that immediately shows up in the account. And so what's happening in essence, what's happening is the financial institution is paying some kind of credit to you, even though that money is sitting in the smart safe. You're getting some credit for that money electronically sitting in your deposit account.
Yeah,
So
yeah, Chris.
not only do you have that instant access to the cash, but you're also getting it's known as provisional credit.
Yeah, that's a good answer, Chris. Yeah, basically, and different FIs do it differently. Like what's going to happen is when you put the money in, let's say Thursday, right? You put the money in today, every business day, at the end of the day, it's going to batch out. Okay, so let's say if it batches out at 10 p.m., the FI gets that information and then they put it in the next business day. Some FIs would be more competitive and they might give you same day. So it just really depends upon how the FI structures it. But that's a great answer.
Yeah,
The
good
money
point,
that
John.
you're feeding, you get it through that provisional credit
Yeah.
process. Um, it's like we got a lot of questions here.
That provisional credit is a big deal for a bank. The especially if you're a cultivator, boy, you have to wait a long time before you get a return on your investment. And
Yeah.
here, a financial institution, by offering the smart safe solution, is fast tracking that for you.
Hmm. Yeah, you're speeding up that cash flow, and cash is king uh, in any industry, right? So as soon as you can get it, the faster you can get it, the better, so you can do more stuff with your business, right?
Yeah.
Um, So we got some questions here, Chris. So here's another question that says if the safe breaks, who services the device? So I'm assuming they're asking if one of the validators break. So with the smart safe and the recycler, you have a maintenance policy. Okay, we recommend that you don't opt out of the maintenance policy, that you keep the maintenance policy so that if one of the validators break or other type of the equipment breaks down, you get coverage for that. Um, that's a good question. And then it also says how is provisional credit calculated? And I think we just pretty much answered that, but it's an example of 100K per month deposit. So it's in terms of calculation, it really maybe they're asking when does it get deposited into their account? Maybe I'm assuming. But again, that depends on the FI. Most FIs set it up to where money you feed it on Monday show up on Tuesday morning.
Yeah. And that would depend on the contractual terms too,
Right,
uh, specific to that financial institution.
right, exactly. And then it says, similar to how ATM provides immediate credit for cash deposits, have you seen financial institutions offering daily credit for deposits placed directly into a physical safe rather than labeling it as provisional credit? Well, I mean, that still would be provisional credit. But basically what's happening in the background with the armor carrier, we talked about CIT and CVS services. So CVS stands for Cash Vault Services. That's where the FI is going to partner with the armor carrier to have an outsourced currency vault in one of the full service branches of the armor carrier across the region. That vault allows the armor carrier to do deposit processing and change order delivery on behalf of that financial institution. But if the financial institution also wants to offer smart safes or recyclers with daily credit and provisional credit, it will be an additional add-on that they can turn on to CVS services. So basically smart safes with provisional credit is an add-on to the basic CVS service that the FI has with your armor carrier. You know, so yeah, these are some great questions here, though.
They're very good questions. Yeah.
There you go.
Have we answered all the questions? Are we up to speed here, John?
I think we have, and I
I
think
think we
we're
are. Okay.
at time too. So, unless anybody else has any other questions,
Yeah,
but
let's
again,
let's give it another 30 seconds in case somebody's being a little bit shy on the questions.
don't be shy here, guys. Wait, we got a question right here. Okay, so reporting is not instantaneous, correct? Let me see. It's kind of moving a little fast here. For our vaulting armor transport company, we get reporting end of day and then give credit the next. Yeah, so it just really depends. In terms of instantaneous, where okay is Wednesday and the staff member puts the money into the the cash into the smart safe? Does it instantaneously go into the bank account? No, because the smart safe still has to batch out that data. Okay, and it's going to be a time of the day that's going to batch out that data and send it over to the FI. So it's not instantaneous. It has to be based upon that batch. But there's a lot of other developments happening in the space, and with the fintech space, you just never know. In a couple of years, maybe we get to that point. That would be awesome. If we get to instantaneous credit, right? So, um,
Yeah, John, thanks for that clarification. That's really helpful.
all right.
There's a new one in. Okay. Have we answered everything, Raphael or
I think we have
John? Are we all set?
There's a new question under the Q&A section.
a Q&A section. Let's see. Okay, it says, what is the max cash on the floor that the unit can handle, and what insurance will cover? Does NSD have a service decision? What uptime we can expect? So I'll talk about this for a minute. In terms of the max cash on the floor, that really depends upon the capacity of the smart safe. So with the capacity of the smart safe, we usually recommend that you keep back your smaller bills, your ones, your fives, and most of your tens, and only feed in the 20s and higher, so that the capacity doesn't fill up too soon with a bunch of ones in there, right? And so in terms of what that dollar amount is, it's going to depend upon whether it's a 2200 note, 4400 note, 8800 note, or whether a recycler can be 10,000 notes in there. And in terms of the what the insurance will cover, that's a good question. You want to reach out to your insurance broker. There's a section of most insurance policies, commercial insurance policies, that talks about cash on hand. Okay, so that cash on hand section, you want to reach out to them, tell them, hey, listen, I'm looking at putting a smart safe or recycler in here. I've already deployed one. What modifications can we do to this? What can we do to change the premiums? And again, as we mentioned earlier, you can likely get some insurance reductions based upon those additional guardrails that are now in place.
Yeah, that's great, John. I think we got another question that might be better for you. How much do smart safes cost for a dispensary in general?
Yeah, so again, depending upon the capacity, it could be as low as $5,000 to buy it up front, or up to $20,000 for the smart safes. So it really depends upon your cash volumes, and again, right size fitting that to your cash volumes. You don't want to have a smart safe that's too small, because if it's too small, then the armor carrier has to come out there multiple times a week, and then you're actually paying more for the servicing side. But you don't want one too big either, because if it's too big, now you've overbought technology, right? So we want to right size fit it. It really depends on your cash volumes, you know.
John, these questions are coming fast and furious, and I think they're all
Okay.
for you. This next one here, what is the biggest operational change dispensaries notice within the first 30 days of using a smart safe?
Yeah, so the first 30 days, as we talked about, again, faster access to cash, that redirecting of the labor, automated reports, like the kind of those things, those main points we talked about. The insurance premium thing, you got to work with your broker on that and kind of see what happens. But yeah, that faster access to cash, you're going to notice the difference in how fast that cash shows up now, but with the next business day, or maybe the same day, depending on your FI. And then now going to your team and saying, hey, now that we got this smart safe in here, we're going to redirect you to do more customer service or marketing, or other type of higher value activities. So that's the main thing in the first 30 days, the biggest impact that you're going to see immediately. And you can lease smart safes. We call it a finance to own, because basically at the end of the lease is a dollar buyout. Okay, so you're basically financing the own it anyway, but there's additional financing costs associated with that, but you got that option, or you can buy it up front.
And
And
John, what about the monthly fee?
yeah, and so the monthly fee would be in relation to if you finance to own it. There's also a reporting fee. Okay, now there's a reporting fee on both sides of the equation. You might have a reporting fee from the armor carrier, okay, for the smart safe portal, and then the FI might charge you a reporting fee to turn on the daily credit. Now, so it just really depends on the client and the particular situation, though.
Okay, I think we've got a couple more questions under the Q&A section.
Yeah, it looks like, so let's say, does NST have a service decision? What uptime should we expect? And is the unit always in back office location, not customer facing? So I'll start with the last one. The recycler is going to be in the back office because it's a very large technology. Okay. And that's for back office automation. That's going to be in the back. For the smart safe, you got different options. Now, these are usually bolted to the ground. Um, Traditional retailers might put it in the front, right under the cashier's the cashier section, or some dispensaries are going to bolt it in the back in the office. So you got different options. Do recommend that you bolt it to the ground with cement though, so it's not moving around and it's actually there. A smart safe, the smallest one without any cash in it, weighs about 200 pounds. So it's pretty heavy. You're gonna need He-Man to come and pull that thing out of the ground. But you just never know, Chris, what's out there. But we do recommend that you bolt it to the ground, though.
And Ben is also asking who would install and what's the cost involved for that?
Yeah, so with that upfront purchase of the smart safe, or even if you finance to own it, there's a shipping cost, there's an installation cost, and the manufacturer of the smart safe would arrange that. Okay. And they might have a team internally, they might use an external team, but it's included within that service that you get. And when you place the order and the order is approved and it goes through, there's going to be there's going to be a shipping date, and then there's going to be an installation date. And on that installation date, that's when that manufacturer's team is going to come out there to install the safe. They're going to also do live training for your team, and put the pin codes in there for the individual staff members and show them how to smart safe functions as well.
Okay, and Ben has also asked, does NST have a service decision? What uptime should we expect?
Uh, so let's see the uptime, the smart safe, you can connect via Ethernet. You can also connect via cellular and Wi-Fi. Um, if you're in a good area, use the cellular Wi-Fi. If your area's kind of shaky, use the Ethernet. So that keeps the uptime where the smart safe continues to run. In terms of the armor carrier, if you're with a good armor carrier like NST has not had a missed stop, Chris, in almost 3 years. So NST is not going to miss that stop. Our service time is almost perfect. And we have a 2-driver model. We hire former members of law enforcement and military personnel, and they have deep backgrounds in high level security. So the uptime on our side is great, and the uptime with the smart safe is great as long as your connection stays stable.
Well, John, that's great. And thank you for answering those questions so adeptly. Um, I think let's just wait another 30 seconds just to make sure we haven't missed somebody who might be typing out a question.
Yeah, let's see here.
I know we're coming up to our hour. I want to be respectful of people's times.
Chris, John, there are 2 questions left on the 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 very own webinar chat, and then I think we're all set.
Okay, it says, okay, who's the manufacturer of the safe? That's a good question. So the smart safe ecosystem has changed rapidly. Okay, so you guys have probably heard of a company called Garda. Garda has acquired a lot of the smaller companies like Tidal, Arca, and created another entity. But there's also some great independents still out there, like AMSEC, like Synox, Chima, Glory is still out there, and that's smart safe and recyclers, right? So there's a lot of different manufacturers for you to choose from. And again, as we talked about earlier, some use cassettes and then some use bag technology. Okay, so you got some different options, and a lot of armor carriers are reselling the smart safes, and they have a good partnership with one or more of these manufacturers, and they can lead you in the right direction on that.
Thanks for that, John.
Yeah.
Okay, Raphael, are we up to date? I think we are, right?
I think that's it.
Well, listen, I want to thank everyone again for signing up for the webinar. And again, John's telephone number and his email address are down there at the bottom of the screen. Please do not hesitate to reach out to John if you have any further questions. I want to talk a little bit more about smart safe technology. And my details are there as well. Please feel free to reach out to me. John, I want to thank you. It's been great getting to know you. It's been
Yeah.
great getting to know the folks at NST. You got a great team there. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing each other at more seminars and so forth in the future.
Oh yeah.
And again, thanks everyone for attending today. And please do reach out for any follow-up questions.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a great day now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye bye.